Part 14. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 136. Ling planned to return along the original path, maybe he could meet Aika who was chasing him. It turned out that this approach was correct. Where did you go? As soon as they met, Aika anxiously asked her reproachful questions. Sorry. Facing Ling's apology full of guilt, Aika's anger that had surged up due to worry and exhaustion gradually subsided. People from the Holy See may appear at any time, and our purpose is to investigate this matter. I can probably understand your current mood, but please be patient a little longer. Aika didn't know if it was because her words were too harsh, which made Ling, who had always been strong, a little frustrated. It's great to find you, though. Have you been looking for it for a long time? Although this is your home, I can't leave you alone. Ling was startled for a moment, then immediately lowered his head deeply. Thank you, thank you. I will lead the way next. Her voice seemed to be filled with excitement. I have also thought a lot, and I will never run away again this time. I am mentally prepared enough. The person she was half an hour ago was completely different from the person she was now, and her back coincided with that of the girl just now. Should I ask her about that girl now? If it were her now, there should be no problem with this topic. Ling. Finally found you. Just as Aika was about to call Ling, a voice from the front made him shut up quickly. The middle-aged woman I met on the stone brick road seemed to have returned here after a trip home. The small basket full of fruits was no longer in her hand. I don't know if she heard the name she just called Ling, but a cold sweat broke out on Aika's back. Ling also stood still a little stiffly. As she promised, she won't run away this time. Hello, first time meeting. She greeted the middle-aged woman politely. You suddenly ran away just now, and Auntie was shocked. The woman smiled and touched Ling's head. When we first met, where did you come here from? Well, how should I explain this problem to the other party? Aika has considered revealing the location of her home, but the Chiz family and the Heinz family may still be connected, so this statement may also cause problems. Pufa Town. While Aika was still struggling, Ling said a place name full of memories. We live in Pfa Town. Pufa Town. The woman didn't seem to react immediately to the place name. I see, that town is some distance away from here, and I've been there very few times. She has been there very few times means that she has at least been to Pufa Town. Aika and Ling tried their best to recall things related to Pfa Town in their minds. If the secret is revealed during the conversation, the consequences will be disastrous. Fortunately, the women don't seem to doubt their words now. I'm Sophia, are you just passing through this village? If you want to investigate, you have to find an excuse to stay in the village. Aika and Ling looked at each other. Ling meant to give all the power of speech to Aika. Actually, when we came here, we were attacked by a pack of fire wolves. Although we hid safely until they left, all our luggage was lost while escaping. Aika deliberately pretended to be depressed, which seemed quite impressive to Ling. Should we doubt the credibility of every word he says from now on? Ling suddenly thought of this question. Then you can stay with us for the time being, and we will try our best to help you contact your family. And Sophia suddenly decided such a big thing for the entire village. For example, if we can work here in exchange for a few days of food, we can probably go back along the original road. How is it possible to contact family members? If you just live and work at the same time, it is generally acceptable, so Aika had already thought of an excuse before coming here. But let the kids work. And Sophia, we used to help our family a lot when we were kids, so we don't need to worry so much. Ling finally stood up and helped Aika convince the hesitant Aunt Sophia. If you say so. It seemed that she finally accepted their opinions. Aika breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Ling beside him. She still had a complicated expression on her face, as if she had something to say but had to hold it back. It's lunchtime now. Are you all still hungry? And Sophia turned around and said, I also have a daughter about your age. Let me entertain you to my house first. Hearing Aunt Sophia's words, Ling's body trembled visibly. Ika noticed it, but Aunt Sophia probably didn't notice this small movement. Come with me. She still has that friendly smile. At noon, residents living in this village returned home one after another. From time to time, residents would greet Aunt Sophia from a distance and ask whose children Ika and Ling who were following her were from. Aunt Sophia would smile and say, keep it secret for now. The people here are so welcoming. Ling's answer seemed a little absent-minded. The two of them were at a distance behind Aunt Sophia. This distance was not far but not close. They spoke in a low voice so that Aunt Sophia would not hear them. Ika, listen to me. Ling struggled in distress for a long time. Even if he kept hiding it, he would know the truth in a few minutes, so it was better for him to tell him now. Aunt Sophia, she is. Is it your mother? She didn't expect that these words would come out of Ika's mouth first, and Ling couldn't hide her surprise. Why do you know? I have never told you about my family. Shhh. Ika secretly glanced in the direction of Aunt Sophia. It just feels like that. And when we first met, your reaction was so big. I think she must be a very important person to you. Always observing so carefully in such a useless place. By the way, I'll take the liberty to ask. Are there any girls about your age among your relatives? Why do you ask that? When I was looking for you just now, I met a girl who looked very similar to you. Without her help in guiding me, I might not have found you now. Is that so? Ling was silent for a while, then shook her head. No, I am the only child in the family. There are no girls around my age in this village. Then what exactly is she? That's probably me a year ago. Ling said this lightly. Sorry, I didn't hear clearly. Ika really couldn't believe what she was hearing. Although this kind of speculation has already been made in my mind, it still requires a certain amount of mental preparation to believe it. If you met me around here, I would have been painting the sea on the edge of the cliff. That was the last time I painted. Yes, that's it. Since Lingdu made it so clear, Ika had to admit this amazing fact. In fact, what he couldn't accept was that Ling could be so calm. Looking at Ling's expression again, Ika knew that he had understood it wrong. I looked strange at that time. She clutched her arm tightly. After tying up her ponytail, one could see at a glance that Ling's snow-white neck was stained with a layer of light red. I don't think there's anything strange about her, but I think she looks more like a young lady. There is no way I can become the eldest lady. That kind of temperament is indeed innate. I felt this way when you and Senior Lilith stood together. Why is there such a big difference between Ling a year ago and Ling now? Is it because of that incident? Ika could only think of this possibility. Coming. Ling murmured to remind Ika, who was thinking about the matter. In front of you is our home. There is one thing I forgot to tell you. Aunt Sophia paused deliberately and let it slip. Actually, our home is the village chief's home. Ika guessed this when she knew that the person in front of her was Ling's mother. Eh? Aren't you a little surprised? Ika immediately noticed his mistake. His attitude here was too natural. Yes, it's because I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. I really didn't expect it, haha. Now Ika could only fool around with a smile. Although it was a bit unnatural, it would be easier to be suspected if he said nothing. Yeah, that's what it is. Aunt Sophia nodded with satisfaction, not minding the awkward silence before at all. I'm talking about you. Ling gently pushed Ika's waist with her elbow. What's wrong? Come on, your usual self. Why are you so stiff? I'm more nervous than you are. Why are you nervous? Isn't this your home? And I have to meet another you later. Of course I will be nervous. Don't use the term other you, It sounds too awkward. At this time, Aunt Sophia's voice intervened in the quiet argument between the two. By the way, I haven't asked your names yet. If you don't mind, can you tell me first? Oops. Ika directly said that there was no problem with her name, but Ling had not yet prepared a pseudonym. I was so busy changing her hairstyle that I didn't notice that her name was also one of the proofs of her identity. I am Ryo, he is Ika, and we are childhood sweethearts. Instead, Ling calmly placed a name on his head that had not been discussed at all. Ryo, what a good name, and Sophia held her hands and smiled, then turned to Ika, what's your name? Ika quickly followed her words and introduced herself. Ika and Ryo, my daughter also yearns for the relationship between childhood sweethearts. Unfortunately, our village does not have children as old as her. Please get along well with her during this time. I'm not yearning for. No, nothing. Ling immediately swallowed back half of what he had said. That's why she faked the relationship between the two so naturally. Ika seemed to realize something. Ling blushed and glared at Ika fiercely. I think we can get along well. Ika took it upon herself to nod along with Ling's share. Ah, it's that person from just now. As soon as he finished speaking, a familiar voice came from behind. Only then did Ika realize why he felt so cordial with the girl when he met her for the first time. That's because her voice is exactly the same as Ling's. When talking to her, Ika unconsciously regarded her as Ling, which is why the communication felt so easy. The pink-haired girl held the folded triangular-legged easel in one hand and carried a small box containing painting supplies in the other hand. She walked down the stairs that the two of them had just passed. Holding so many things, she moved slowly, and the strange posture of walking made Ika couldn't help laughing. Do you need my help? No need. The girl rejected Ika's kindness. I can't let someone I just met once come to help. This subtle pride and stubborn character are all too familiar to Ika. Now, Ling has added a new image in Ika's heart. Let me help you. Ling suddenly walked up to the girl and took the tripod-legged easel from her hands without permission. You really don't need help, I can do it alone. Don't be so polite. Rely on the people around you more, and the person you ask for your help will also be happy. Are you happy? Ling looked at her past self tenderly, her eyes full of nostalgia. She knew clearly that nothing she did here would change the future, but she still taught the girl what she had learned in the past year. No, the future has changed. Because the one who said this was the future Ling. This statement may be a bit strange. What Ling in the past and Ling in the present lacked was just 1 year of time with everyone. So did Ika, Luoluo and Wei 11 change Ling? Perhaps this is a small part of the reason, but whether she can make changes ultimately depends on her. Your name? Ling. My name is Liang. I may have to ask you to take care of me during this period. Please give me your advice. Ryo, are you sister? I'm probably a year older than you. You can call me sister. At home, Luoluo and Wei 11 both call her sister Ling. Aunt Sophia said that she longed for a relationship with her childhood sweetheart, and perhaps there were more different identities in her dreams. In this village, she had no friends who could accompany her through her childhood. In comparison, Ika has Luoluo by her side, and Wei 11 has Luyin by her side, so they may be much happier than her. But happiness or not is not a conclusion that others can make at will, so Ika will not sigh for her. He believed in Ling, she did hide too much, but only in this way, she would learn to discover her own flaws in her deliberate disguise. How beautiful is Ling at that moment when she peels off the last layer of her mask and breaks out of her shell. Ika hopes to witness that moment with her own eyes, even if the person accompanying her at that time is not herself. Do you care about Ryo? Aunt Sophia's voice brought Ika's thoughts back to reality. Because we are family. Ika didn't hesitate at all to say such words in front of Ling Zhen's family. He believed that if it was Ling, he would answer the same way. Something doesn't seem right, Ika hesitated at this time. If she was faced with this kind of problem, she would definitely deny it first, and then she would be kicked hard as the object of embarrassment to her. Really? Although I only have one daughter, Ling, I have met many boys your age. What a boy is thinking can easily be revealed on his expression. Aunt Sophia seemed to be happy and poked the tip of Ika's nose with her extended finger. Ika took a few steps back in panic, almost tripping over herself. Suddenly feeling the dazzling gaze beside him, Ling came back here without knowing when, pouting with an unhappy expression. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 137. We're here, this is the village chief's home. At first glance, it looks no different from ordinary houses around it. Aunt Sophia and Xiaoling entered the house first. You guys can come in too, you're welcome. Xiaoling's figure disappeared into the house, and Aunt Sophia was waiting for Ika and Ling to enter the house at the entrance. Although I have returned to my own home, can this place still be called Ling's home? Ika glanced sideways at Ling's face. She gritted her teeth for a moment, then walked past Ika and took off her shoes at the entrance. Excuse me, she said softly to the room, then turned to look at Ika, urging him to follow quickly with her eyes. Be disturbance. I thought Ling would resist entering this house, but her mind was much stronger than Ika imagined. Ika had no special feeling about stepping into this house. Since Ling had no problem, there was no need for him to hesitate. Through the entrance, there is a bright restaurant and cooking room that can accommodate a family. Xiaoling, who had just entered the house, was not sitting at the dining table. Now there was only a middle-aged man reading a newspaper at the table. Will newspapers be delivered to such remote areas? The Ika family never received a newspaper. Oh, you are here. The middle-aged man noticed the footsteps, put the newspaper in his hand on the table, and stood up. Only then did Ika realize that this middle-aged man was a full head taller than him, and too tall from a male perspective. Feeling some pressure from his body, Ika swallowed and deliberately straightened her waist. Sophia just told me about you. I didn't expect to find you so soon. Let them live in our village during this period. Is there any easier work that can be done for them? Work? Is that what you asked for? The middle-aged man's gaze was so sharp that Ika even felt that his lie would be exposed in the next moment. Even though they now live in a small village in a remote area, they are still the Heinz family, which was once known as the Twin Towers of Biz together with the Chiz family. With this kind of childish trick, Ika has no confidence that she can get this man. Recognition. Yes, yes, if I can get a job, I will feel more comfortable. Ling was a little different from the beginning. She always avoided conversations, but now she actively started to exchange opinions with her family. You are. The middle-aged man looked up and down at Ling, who stood up, holding his chin as if thinking about something, and then nodded to himself. Now even I can only agree. The middle-aged man scratched his hair in confusion. Okay, wait a minute and I will go see where there is still a shortage of manpower, and you can go and help. Don't be too busy, force yourself. I don't want there to be rumors that the child collapsed from exhaustion while working, otherwise my position as the village chief will be worthy of everyone's questioning. Speaking jokingly, the middle-aged man stretched out his hand to Ika. What's the matter? Why don't you come and shake hands? He raised the corner of his mouth towards Ika. For some reason, seeing the man's smile, Ika felt uneasy. Please, please give me more advice. He stretched out his hand hesitantly, the man's lips raised higher, and he suddenly held Ika's hand. Ah, please give me some advice, young man. Ika felt a heavy pressure on her hand. For a middle-aged man of that size, this is probably just his ordinary strength. The pain as if the bones in his hands were cracking made Ika's smile distorted. He arched his palms desperately to create a gap between the two palms, and the pain was relieved a lot. This little skill of comparing hand strength was learned by Ika and Shun when they were young. No matter how hard the opponent exerts his strength, the strength he feels will not increase. There was surprise in the middle-aged man's eyes, mixed with some other emotions. But that look was fleeting, and Ika didn't notice this detail. Yes, I agree, he laughed and let go of Ika's sore hand, patted Ika's shoulder affectionately. My name is Lehman, I am the mayor of this village. You have just met, is she my daughter? By the way, what did he approve of? Ika was a little confused about what he was talking to himself. It seemed like he had no intention of testing Ling, so why did he only target himself? Because they are all men? This reason seems to make sense. Ling, come here too, we're getting ready for dinner. Aunt Sophia came out of the cooking room and said this towards the two of them. Suddenly hearing his name, Ling took a step out reflexively. But she immediately realized that this title did not belong to her now. Okay. Xiao Ling, who was behind her, responded to her mother's call, walked up to the two of them from behind with her long pink shawl hair swaying, bowed her head slightly to greet them, and then walked to the dining table. Let's go there too. Ika patted Ling's back gently. The current self is cool, not cold. She repeated the sentence several times in her mind, adjusted her somewhat disappointed mood, and then walked to the dining table where she once existed. The village chief did not have any spare guest rooms in his home, so he could only lend the two people an unoccupied house in the village. Because no one had used it for a long time, a thick layer of dust accumulated in the room. Fortunately, there are only the necessary furniture in the house, otherwise it would take a whole day to clean and organize. Aunt Sophia and Xiao Ling joined the house cleaning team. This place was originally intended to be a warehouse, but nothing was put in it, so it has been sitting idle here. I have long wanted to find time to clean this house, and it will be easier with your help. Obviously, Ika and Ling, who were staying here, should all clean up, but Aunt Sophia treated them as helpers and thanked them. While I felt a warmth in my heart, I also felt a sense of melancholy when I thought about what would happen next. Ika looked at Xiao Ling. She was wearing an ill-fitting apron and clumsily cleaning the dust on the cabinet with a duster. Those hands can draw such beautiful paintings, but they don't seem to be very good at housework. Speaking of which, at the beginning of the year, Ling and Luoluo cleaned the administrator's cabin together. When they came home, it felt very clean. Luoluo couldn't have done it alone. Now Ling is sorting all the things he doesn't have into the paper boxes prepared by Aunt Sophia, and his movements are much more skillful than Xiao Ling's. You never said you could draw. Ika came close to Ling and started sorting out the clutter with her. There's no need to say it. It's a useless skill anyway. Ling continued his work without looking back, seeming to have little interest in the topic. Ika couldn't just accept her words. The painting I saw at that time was a work that could only be created by being very serious. From the delicate brushwork, you can see how much energy she put into the painting, but now it has been conveyed by her own words. Ika couldn't tell the true feelings hidden in her words. Perhaps it was true that she had lost interest. When you go back, try to draw one. Why? Painting supplies are very expensive. Don't let Luoluo worry. Luoluo will definitely support me, and so will Wei 11. You really dare to say something so sure? Because it's them. Ling must also understand this, so Ika's words stop here. The work on Ling's hand was almost finished. He stood up with his knees supported. The dizziness caused by insufficient blood supply to the brain lasted only a moment. Xiao Ling's work is still continuing. Aunt Sophia has polished the originally slightly dull glass and started cleaning the wooden floor. So this is Ika suddenly understood. What, so that's how it is? It's nothing, I'll just say it casually. Aunt Sophia is so good at housework, Ling must also have this talent, but she has never had the opportunity to exercise it at home. After leaving home, you have to do everything by yourself, and you will naturally become more proficient. He picked up the bucket that needed to be changed and walked out of the house. Is the cleaning going well? Uncle Lehman had arrived outside the house without knowing when, but he never went in. With the help of Aunt Sophia and Ling, it will be much faster. Uncle, don't you have any work this afternoon? Why did you suddenly call me uncle? Are we that familiar to you? Then what do you want me to call you? Called Dad or something? Why do I use this title? And don't you find it disgusting? When you say that, it seems like there is no reason for you to call me that. The only person who can call me Dad is my daughter. In the past, Ling used to call this uncle Dad, and Ika snickered in her heart. Will she also act coquettishly to her family? I can't imagine that scene. I feel like she is more suitable for giving orders. There seems to be something wrong. Ling once objected to him exposing her past, and now he definitely doesn't want to come into contact with Xiaoling. But, I want to know her better. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 138. Uncle Lehman did put a certain amount of pressure on Ika in terms of body shape, but after communicating for a long time, you will find that he is actually a very casual person, and he and Ika unexpectedly get along very well. In other words, he and his father must be in tune. Perhaps Uncle Lehman found the shadow of his father in Ika. In order not to reveal her identity, Ika made an excuse and returned to the house. After only leaving for a short while, the house seemed to have changed. The debris has been sorted and stacked in the corner, and the dust has basically been wiped away. The light entering the room from the window became much clearer. Are you done talking? Aunt Sophia noticed from the window the conversation between Ika and Uncle Lehman outside the house. Well, Uncle said he won't come in and cause trouble. Did he ask you to call him Dad? Well. Ika was speechless for a moment. Aunt Sophia did not hear the conversation between the two, but she told the truth. If you call me Mom, I welcome you. Please let me go. Aunt Sophia, please stop bullying him. Ling waved her hands and inserted herself between Ika and Aunt Sophia, forcefully separating the two people who were getting closer and closer. Haha, are you jealous? Aunt Sophia blinked at Ling, whose cheeks were flushed, which made Ling even more panicked. This is not jealousy. And if I have to say it, it is obviously my advantage. Hey, why are you comparing yourself to your own mother? Ika wanted to cover Ling's mouth now, but she might receive inhumane treatment when she was alone, so Ika didn't do it in the end. She said so. Ika immediately understood that Aunt Sophia was just trying to trick Ling out, and Ling bit the bait as she expected without knowing it. I really envy you young people, although I don't have as big a reaction as my dear, I am actually a little reluctant to part with it. The honey Aunt Sophia calls must be Uncle Lehman. Sometimes what the two of them said was a little difficult for Ika to understand. It was completely impossible to tell that Ling was a child who grew up in such a lively family atmosphere. Why do you also have an expression of approval on your face? I don't agree with anything. Linja's resentful voice startled Ika. Forget what you just said right away, do you understand? Okay, I will definitely forget everything. Even if you make a verbal promise, you can't really forget it. This is just an emergency measure so that the two people will not be so embarrassed in their subsequent interactions. Ika was very grateful that Ling deliberately raised this issue so that she could follow her words to erase the issue from the surface. Sister Liang, do you need to put the things here outside the house? Xiaoling came over and pointed at the pile of debris in the corner. Those are completely useless things, and they will only occupy space if placed here. I'll go put these outside. Ika rolled up his sleeves. Only a boy like him could do such strenuous work. Ling, you should go and help too. Okay, okay. Xiao Ling obediently followed Ika as arranged by Aunt Sophia. What about me? Seeing Xiao Ling and Ika going out together, Ling seemed a little anxious. Liang, please come and help me. If all the mold is not eliminated, the consequences will be serious. Aunt Sophia used this reason to keep Ling by her side. In this case, Ika knew the reason why Ling was so reluctant. Probably because she didn't want to be alone with her mother in this situation, but this would be a bad thing, so Ika decided to help Aunt Sophia convince her here. Just stay here. Aunt Sophia will feel a lot more relaxed if you are here. Yeah. Aunt Sophia quickly agreed with Ika. Why are you even? Because I believe in you. Ika didn't know if Ling understood what she wanted to express, her expression was very complicated. After a few long seconds, Ling lowered his hands as if giving up. Then Ling and I will be back soon. Ah, I almost forgot to tell you that all these things must be placed at the designated recycling point in the back mountain. Do you want to put it that far away? Ika must take back the promise she just made with Ling. They came down from the back mountain, and they both knew how long it would take to go back and forth. Of course you can't litter the trash. If you put it there, there will be dedicated personnel to handle it. Then we can only go now. I don't know if I can make it back before dark. Xiao Ling helped Ika share 1/3 of the weight, which seemed to be very reluctant. Ling at this period should not be a user of the light flame sword yet. Could it be that the light flame sword can still strengthen his physical abilities? Ika has always been concerned about the fact that Ling's magical costume has no external appearance. Perhaps such a magical costume can always play a role in the body. Then let's go first. Ika waved to the two people in the room, and Xiao Ling had already put the heavy objects in his hands on the ground and was waiting for him. Apologizing in her heart to Ling, who fell into self-loathing, Ika left the house under Xiao Ling's gaze. Okay, let's hurry up. We have to finish everything before dark. Aunt Sophia clenched her fists enthusiastically. On the contrary, Ling's mood remained low. What happens after finishing it? Neither he nor Ika are residents of this world and know the final outcome of this world. In Ling's eyes, everything going on now was like a farce, like a child's playhouse. Sometimes, people who do not know the truth and do not understand the essence are happy, but those who can pretend not to know the truth and do not understand the essence are happy. But Ling didn't feel happy at all. What's wrong? Aunt Sophia noticed Ling's depressed tone. If you're tired, do you want to take a rest? No, no need. Although it's a bit hard, it's not to the point where you need to rest. Ling politely declined Aunt Sophia's suggestion. What she really thought was that if she rested now, she would have to face her mother. If you are even slightly distracted, you may leak something you are hiding. Ika has been trying to prevent this from happening, so he can't let his efforts go to waste. You don't need to push yourself so hard. Please wait a moment. Aunt Sophia put down the cleaning tools in her hands and pushed Ling to sit on the cleaned chair. Ling knew that it would end like this in the end. She knew her mother's behavior very well, so she insisted on not showing any flaws. But the gap in the soul is exposed for a moment, and then something unknown fills it. If Auntie is okay, can I be your talk partner? Of course, there's no need to talk about things that can't be said. If there's nothing special to say, it's good to just take a break. Ling didn't answer for a moment. Of course she had a lot to say and a lot of things she wanted the person in front of her to know. But the prerequisite for being able to convey those words is to confess their identities. Although we know that our actions will not have any impact on the future, people are social animals and must care about the expectations and looks of their families and people around them. During the silent time, Ling felt like sitting on pins and needles. Aunt Sophia didn't seem to care about this silence, and kept her eyes on Ling. Being stared at so closely by her, Ling twisted around as if at a loss. Is that boy your lover? When Ling was desperately looking for a topic to break the awkward silence, Aunt Sophia asked her an unexpected question. Of course not. We are just ordinary childhood sweethearts. In panic, Ling almost forgot their identities. But he seems to be particularly concerned about you, and you pay a lot of attention to him. Isn't this Aunt's illusion? Aunt Sophia smiled evilly and observed Ling's reaction. You should calm down at this time, otherwise you will step into her trap. Although Ling knew this in his heart, the way he acted could not be called calm at all. Why deny it so eagerly? Aunt Sophia is the only one here, and she can quickly satisfy her curiosity by treating it as a casual remark. But Ling's self-esteem did not allow her to express her true feelings in a perfunctory manner. Be responsible for your own actions, this is what Ling said when he accused Ika of hypocrisy. If you are the first to make such hypocritical words and deeds now, what qualifications do you have to criticize Ika justly? Just because, living together, the distance will naturally be closer than other people. But this kind of relationship is probably not like what you said, just because we are family members, so we will care more about each other. The reference for Ling's words was Lugo Lugo, but she couldn't really understand this feeling from Lugo Lugo's position. In the final analysis, this is just an answer guessed from one's own perspective. In the name of family, it is nothing more than sophistry. So, my question has no preconditions. Whether it's childhood sweethearts or family members, these are just additional conditions. What's important is what kind of view you have on him. It's hard to answer this kind of question right away. It's normal, after all, my aunt also went through such a period. Aunt Sophia held her cheek and smiled softly. But don't use thinking as an excuse, otherwise the opportunity may slip away quietly when you hesitate. You are not a family related by blood, but I already know that the relationship between you is enough to be called family. After only spending half a day with Aunt Sophia, she revealed these facts in one sentence. Ling was a little afraid to stay alone with her. She felt that any words she said would be carefully analyzed in her mind by her mother, and then she would ask questions that she could not answer. Okay, we should have rested. Almost surprisingly, Aunt Sophia simply let Ling go. When Ika and Ling come back, we should finish our work. She stood up and stretched her arms. By the way, Liang and Sophia suddenly stopped Ling, who was about to start working. Should I let Ling get involved in housework earlier? If you can't even do this kind of thing, there will be all kinds of things in the future. Such trouble. It's exactly what you said, haha. If this world affects the future, I'm afraid I will be a completely different person when I return to reality. Suddenly I thought of Ika, who was now with her past self. There must be a lot of things he doesn't understand now, such as why his past self and his current self seem to be two completely unrelated people. Ling knew that it was impossible for him to return to his original state, so he could just let the past become a memory that only belonged to him. Ling was actually very resistant to letting Ika see her past self, but in order to achieve her goal, this was an inevitable development. Obviously the prototype is the same person, but Ling is not sure about what his past self would say or do. Only now did she realize that she had indeed changed too much. Even if she doesn't have to cross-dress in front of her family, they won't believe that this is their daughter. Liang, don't stay there in a daze. Aunt Sophia greeted her. If she calls herself by her real name, then Ling will definitely forget that this is a false world and indulge in beautiful dreams. It was precisely because the pseudonym sounded so aggrieved to Ling that she could always maintain her original intention and clearly remember her responsibilities. Precisely because the future cannot be changed, human beings can only cherish their current life and value the people who are still alive around them. Only when you lose it do you know how to cherish it. Ling felt that this sentence did not apply to her, because she always understood this truth. She remembers every bit of life with her family clearly. So when facing her family members whom she can no longer see again, Ling can still have a clear conscience even if her heart is full of reluctance. I will make the decision to use the magic equipment to return here. In addition to investigating the possibility that Lan Ming mentioned, it may be more to satisfy the regret of not saying goodbye properly in the end. Even if it is a dream, Ling still hopes to get an answer that satisfies herself. This time, Aika will probably agree with this selfishness. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 139. Xiaoling was holding a black garbage bag and moving slowly behind Aika. It was clear that Aika was the guest and Xiaoling was the host, but she still silently kept a distance from Aika, and their identities seemed to be reversed. Ling. Is there something wrong? Xiaoling raised her head in panic. Aika looked at her sideways, thinking about what they could talk about to break the silence. Can I just call you by your name? Okay. Oh. This topic ends here. Now that things have happened, Aika hopes that the Ling of the past can be as straightforward as the Ling of now, so that Aika can speak without any scruples. I have always said that there is no trace of the eldest lady in Ling at all, but the Ling in front of me looks unexperienced. Compared with the Ling of the future, they are completely two extremes. This earth-shaking change, if Ling hadn't said it himself, Aika couldn't believe that the girl with long pink hair and the girl with long blonde hair in front of her were the same person. The different hair color is due to the influence of the light flame sword in the body. Wei 11 told everyone this fact very early. Can I just call you by your name too? Xiaoling suddenly made a request to Aika. I don't mind. If Ling hears it, it will definitely cause unnecessary misunderstandings. It's obviously the same person, why did he have such a troublesome personality now? After receiving permission, Xiaoling just nodded without saying a word. Ling. I am listening. For her, calling him by his first name was a bit too forced. Aika usually calls Ling like this, so this name is very smooth. What do you usually do in your normal time? Let's start with this simple question. Aika wants to know Ling, both now and in the past. Well, I have some old painting tools at home. I just tried painting at first, and I fell in love without knowing it. Although I don't know much about art, I think the painting last time was really a beautiful work. Thank you, I'm still only at the level of a beginner. Are there any other completed works? Those are not finished products yet. In order to let Aika hear her words clearly, Xiaoling drew closer to him. I will read books for a while at other times, but I can't understand a lot of the content. It's difficult. Stick to it. By the way, have you ever been exposed to swordsmanship? Dad taught me how to swing a sword, but I didn't have any use for it, so I gradually gave up. Aika thought that Ling would be so proficient in swordsmanship because he had been practicing since he was a child, but it turned out that was not the case. Are all the people living in this village your family? No, there are also people from some surrounding villages who have all moved here. So that's it? The Heinz family sank underwater immediately after the war, and it has been nearly 100 years since they moved here. Bringing together surrounding villages of all sizes can help each other in daily life, which will be of great help to the development of villages in remote areas. Xiaoling had already answered all the answers she wanted to know honestly. But, is she too lack of vigilance? I quite like this place. If brother Aika and sister Liang can stay here forever, everyone will be happy. In Xiaoling's heart, he and Ling were just ordinary travelers who could say such relaxed words. But once their goal is achieved, they must return to reality, and the village will cease to exist. So this is an impossible dream. Even though he is very aware of this, Aika can only protect Xiaoling's world against his will. Well, thank you for your kindness, Ling. Sister Liang, what's on her mind? Why do you say that? Maybe it's because she looks a lot like me. Sometimes I feel like I can tell what she's thinking. Xiaoling probably put Ling and himself together based on intuition. It is the same person, even if there is a gap in the middle of the change of mood, but emotions such as troubles can be conveyed through only subtle changes in expressions and movements. Leave her affairs to me. We are childhood sweethearts. Is this my childhood sweetheart? Aika then remembered that Xiaoling did not have the concept of childhood sweethearts, but only longed for such a relationship. So she would use Aika and Ling as reference objects like this. It's easier to understand as a family. You can consider Liang and I as friends. We are only 1 year older than you, so we don't have to worry so much. Xiaoling smiled happily. Oops, it's getting dark. The pace of the two of them slowed down a lot. The main reason was that Aika was taking care of Xiaoling. It's not far away, come on. When carrying heavy objects, walking slowly is more difficult than walking fast. This is the experience Aika gained when she helped the family when she was a child. Aika. Are you tired already? No, it doesn't matter to me. Xiaoling shook her head. I know there is a shortcut, if possible, let me lead the way. Then it's up to you. This time, it was Xiaoling who walked in front of Aika. Passing through the hidden path, we soon arrived at the designated recycling location. There is still some time before it gets completely dark, so we can definitely rush back at the appointed time. After returning, Ling and Aunt Sophia had completely tidied up the house. Sure enough, it was the right choice to let Ling spend some time alone with her mother. Ling's attitude was no longer as rigid as before. This is what Aika wants. At night, in the village square, all the villagers gathered together and held a lively welcome party for Aika and Ling. This was Uncle Lehman's plan, and he secretly made arrangements in the afternoon. As expected, the people in the village were not generally enthusiastic. There was also a group of uncles who kept encouraging Aika to drink. In the end, they were all driven away by Uncle Lehman. Ling also received the same warm reception from the women, but Aika couldn't even take care of herself and was helpless. The welcome party lasted until very late. Uncle Lehman and his family sent Aika and Ling to the door of the room and left. Because they were so excited at the welcome party, both of them were now feeling sleepy. You already knew this would be the case. I don't know, I've never been here before. So no one mentioned this when you and Aunt Sophia were cleaning the house. Even if it is raised, it cannot be solved immediately. I can tolerate it, why do you still have so many opinions? Ling finally became impatient with Aika's nagging attitude. Since you have agreed, then I have no objection. I said this out of concern for your feelings. Thank you very much. If you didn't say anything, I wouldn't care so much. The current situation is that the two must sleep in the same bed. Aunt Sophia asked the young people in the village to temporarily move this bed in, so it was impossible to prepare a second bed. After turning off the lights in the room, the two lay down back to back. The warm touch on her back forced Aika to pay attention, and all the sleepiness that came up was blown away. I said, are you still awake? Don't talk, I'm going to fall asleep soon. Ling's close voice came from behind, and she moved slightly, unintentionally emphasizing her presence. Aika could only rest her arm on her head, not daring to move around even if it was a little numb. Ling's answer was still very energetic, and she didn't look like she was going to fall asleep anytime soon. I had a little chat with her today. It's nothing like you now. Then I'm really sorry. How long will it take for people from the Holy See to come to this village? Do you know? You found my past self on the edge of that cliff, and the painting is almost finished, so there are only 2 or 3 days left. If I have a chance, I'd like to see your previous paintings. They are all half-finished products, just graffiti, nothing interesting to look at. You probably haven't forgotten how to draw now, right? Remember a little bit. Then why don't you try to finish them? Can you keep them all in your room? How naive was I in the past that I even told you such a thing. It's nice to be naive. Do you think that way is better? Ika didn't know how to answer this question. He only knew the answer, but he didn't know how to express it so that Ling could understand it. Aren't you the same person in the past and you now? This answer is the most meaningless. I slept. You ran away so fast. Ling behind him seemed to turn around. Did you really sleep? I'm getting ready to sleep. Isn't that just because you haven't slept yet? If we keep talking, it might be daybreak by the time we fall asleep. That's not bad. Stop it. Good night. Ling should be facing his side now, and he must not turn around after falling asleep tonight. Ika desperately asked for something that could not be decided by herself. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 140. The chirping of birds seemed to come from far away through the closed windows and drawn curtains. The rustling sound is particularly clear in the early morning when I have not yet fully woken up. The curtains were still drawn as they were last night, and the room was dark, making it impossible to accurately judge the time. This unique fresh smell in the morning made Ika feel like she could continue to sleep for a while. I don't know when I slept on the edge of the bed, but there was so much space in front of me, as if the space was specially reserved for someone. To whom? The memory covered by a thin layer of mist suddenly became clear. When did you turn around? Didn't you keep your arms on your head and look in the direction of the door last night? Speaking of which, when did he fall asleep? He was obviously so nervous. The quilt in front of him was lifted up, and this fact clearly conveyed a dangerous signal to Ika. He held his breath, and the rustling sound behind him seemed to be closer to him. It would be better not to go back and confirm at this time. An alarm bell rang in Ika's mind. He closed his eyes tightly, but after turning off his vision, his hearing became more sensitive. Care very much. If Ling is not behind it, but a thief, this possibility exists. Then, pretend to be still asleep and turn over. Ika did so because he had a valid reason. The small sound suddenly stopped. Were you really shocked by your own actions? There is absolutely no way the other party is Ling. Unreasonably confident, Ika felt that her judgment was well founded. Ling always gets up very early, and everyone in the village only knows her fake identity, so she might go out early in the morning. This was originally a village that belonged to Ling, so there would be no problem if she was left alone. The rustling sound started again. The silence just now seemed to be because the other party was trying to confirm whether Ika was awake, and because Ika was thinking about Ling's affairs, his disguise was not exposed. As long as we are human beings, we will be careless sometimes. When the other person lets his guard down, at least remember what he looks like first. Ika quietly opened her eyes a crack. There was not enough light in the room and visibility was limited. But Ika still found the source of the small sound. It's almost 10 minutes. Not only Luoluo, but everyone present was paying attention to the passage of time. One day has passed in their world, and there are still 5 days left. Instructor Tara must maintain the ability of the foundation of omniscience during this hour. Although her expression looks very calm now, it is unknown how she actually does it. Is there any way to know what's going on in that world? I'm sorry, Your Highness Princess. This is the ability of the omniscient, and there is no way to interfere from the outside. Your Highness, it's almost time to. Charlotte reminded gently in Lan Ming's ear. Okay, I know. Lan Ming glanced at the big pendulum clock in the room. The next meeting was very important and she, as the third princess, had to attend. Then I'll leave it to you, sorry. Go, go, go. I have no problem here. And they are still here. If I need anything, I will use my status as a teacher to do whatever I can. Ahaha. This argument. Luoluo and Wei 11 both laughed at Tutor Tara's words. Instructor Tara probably used this relaxed statement on purpose to ease the heavy air in the room. This is the most tense moment. As the leader, Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming is not present, which will inevitably shake everyone's hearts. Among the people present, Tutor Tara undoubtedly had the biggest burden, but she still had a smile on her face. It seems that the relationship between her and Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming is not an ordinary superior-subordinate relationship, but closer. Luoluo just has this feeling and is not sure. I'm asking you to hold me back on that side. No matter whether it's success or failure here, I will leave on time. Just hold on until then. Yes, Lan Ming responded to Tutor Tara's trust with a firm answer, I will do what only I can do. Xiaoluo nodded to everyone and left the room with Lan Ming. When the door opened, several members of the Knights of Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming could be seen waiting at the door. Luoluo and Wei 11 didn't ask anything until the door closed. Humans are strange creatures. At certain special moments, even if a more reasonable choice is presented to them, they will still choose to move forward for the sake of truth. What is truth? Existence is truth, existence is reasonable. For the great goal of seeking the truth, Aika must see to the end even though she feels extremely guilty. Ling was now wearing only a bath towel, standing in front of the full-length mirror with her back to the bed, and the pajamas she wore last night hanging casually on the back of the chair. She seemed to have used the bathroom on the first floor earlier and was wiping her hair with the towel prepared by Aunt Sophia. This is the real source of the rustling. What if I wake up? Has she considered this question? Although there is only one room, can't this kind of thing be done on the first floor? Why can't girls live without a mirror at all? Speaking of Luoluo, no, this has nothing to do with Luoluo. And the most important thing is, what if someone comes in? Because they are all family members, it doesn't matter if they are seen like this. It turns out that I never noticed it when I was at home. Maybe Wei 11 will know. Ling seemed completely unaware of the explosion of contradictory thoughts coming from behind. She put the towel down and loosened it. In order to make it easier to put on her underwear, she pulled her long hair to her chest, revealing her smooth back. The guilt in her heart piled up one after another, and Aika's lungs seemed to be stuffed with a ball of cotton, and she could only use rapid breathing to maintain her body's need for oxygen. Not knowing where something was wrong, Ling turned her head to look this way and stopped moving her hands. Aika tensed all the muscles in her body, not daring to move at all. Ling looked back for a few seconds before continuing to button her underwear with her backhand. Aika's heart, which had jumped to her throat, could finally sink. What would be the consequences if she caught him peeking? Although he won't die here on the spot, he will definitely not look good if he goes back, and all the previous efforts to bridge the gap between the two will be in vain. This was something more difficult for him to accept than death. Ling's fingers stretched out from the sleeves of her coat, zipped up her skirt, then raised her slender legs, and pulled her knee-high socks from the toes to the appropriate position. After getting dressed, she took a light turn in front of the full-length mirror. It turns out that she is someone who knows how to do this kind of thing when she is alone. Aika's heart seemed to be pulled hard by something, and her body trembled involuntarily. You are indeed awake. It was probably at that moment that Aika was exposed. Ling's voice was like a chain, locking Aika's body tightly. I can see your movements clearly in the mirror. With a cold voice and no ups and downs in tone, it was not difficult for Aika to imagine Ling's mood. Because you are doing that kind of thing, I don't feel comfortable opening my mouth to disturb you. I don't know how to explain it. No matter how I explain it, seeing it means seeing it. The image reflected on the retina has been sent to the brain for permanent storage. It is not something that can be forgotten easily. Don't use such misleading terms. A lump of something was thrown in his face. That was the towel Ling had just used, now it was crumpled into a ball. Ling immediately walked back to the bed quickly and snatched away his towel before Aika made a move. She had her hands on her waist, and the flush on her cheeks was probably a mixture of anger and shyness. Is there any explanation? No. That is to say. Do you admit that you saw everything? Yes. Aika was sitting on the ground and buried her head deeply. Sorry. Hey, I didn't ask you to do this. Don't worry, I did it myself. How could you not care? The first one to become anxious was Ling. Her toes tapped the ground impatiently. I'm just angry. Her words lost strength compared to the beginning. If you want to watch it openly. What? I said you can just watch it openly. You don't have a fever, do you? It's just because you're sneaking around like this that I'm angry. This time, it was Aika who was confused. The reason why Linghui was so excited seemed to be a little different from what he imagined. And think about what she said. Did you know I was awake in the first place? Of course. Then why? Don't ask me. Ling left these words and closed the door of the room heavily. As she passed Aika, the scent of shampoo that spread throughout the room was gently stirred. Only then did Aika realize that the whole room was already filled with the smell of coldness. If it had been discovered earlier, it would not have developed into the current situation. The light coming through the gaps in the curtains was already very bright. Continuing to hide in the room was not an option. In Ling's mind, he might already be an out-and-out pervert. Escape is shameful but useful, but Aika doesn't need this concept now. What does Ling's last sentence mean? Aika hopes to find answers and clarify this problem. From Ling's body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 141. When we arrived on the first floor, Ling was not here. After Aika finished washing, she immediately changed her clothes and left the house. Outside the house, Aika immediately found Ling, who was chatting and laughing with Aunt Sophia and Uncle Lehman. Xiao Ling was also with them. She was the first person to discover Aika. Xiao Liang was still complaining to us just now. No matter how hard we wake you up, you can't wake up. Was Ling talking about herself just now? Obviously that kind of thing happened just now. Ahaha, I'm sorry, that room is too comfortable. Yeah, it's comfortable, in every sense of the word, right? Ling took over Aika's words. Although she still had the same smile as before, Aika was sure that she was not smiling at all. By the way, how were you two last night? What do you mean? Uncle Lehman's sudden question left Aika confused. Your family, right? His eyes moved to Ling again. Well, that's it? Ling flinched a little and confirmed with a hint of melancholy. Of course she would hesitate when asked such a question by her real relatives face to face. You're not making a new family, are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Aunt Sophia smiled and stepped in between Uncle Lehman and Ling. My dear, and I still have some village affairs to deal with, so I'll excuse you. I introduced you to the village last night. Everyone, you can just visit today. If you really want to help, the fruit trees over there are ready for harvest, so you can go over there and have a look. The tall and strong Uncle Lehman was forcibly dragged away by Aunt Sophia, who even looked a little thin. Go away. Snored. That. It takes courage to take the initiative to talk. Aika nervously grabbed her hair, looking for a suitable opportunity. Let's forget about that matter and don't mention it again. But I've seen it all. I can't forget it without cutting off your head. If possible, I still hope you can let my head go. To be honest. Ling tangled her long hair with her fingers and stared at the ground at her feet. Don't you feel anything? Which aspect do you mean? Can't you use your own brain? Besides those dirty thoughts, what else is there in it? Ling's anger suddenly surged up. I understand what you mean, but don't you want to hear what happened at that time again? It's just about this aspect, it doesn't matter if you listen. Very beautiful. That's it? Wouldn't it be a complete pervert if I kept commenting on your body? It turns out you are not a complete pervert. I'm not a pervert at all. Suddenly there was an uncontrollable chuckle from beside him. Little, Ling. Ling turned her head in shock, where Xiao Ling covered her mouth and snickered. Didn't you go back with your parents? Ika didn't expect Xiao Ling to stay here all the time, and she heard all the arguments she had with Ling just now. Well, Mom and Dad asked me to stay and help you. We need a guide, right? Xiao Ling happily shook her finger. Brother Ika and sister Liang have such a good relationship. It was just a sigh without any malice, but it pierced Ling's fragile heart. It doesn't matter, Ika put his hand gently on her trembling shoulders, you can't develop in a worse direction in the past. Then Ika's own existence was turned into a state where it could no longer develop. After realizing that she had gone too far, Ling couldn't bear to leave Ika here like trash. Xiao Ling is the only person here who can be used as a conversation partner. Ling has always avoided contact with her alone, because they know each other best, and the possibility of revealing their true identity will greatly increase. The most important thing is that Ling has no way to get used to the feeling of talking in front of a mirror, and she doesn't want to get used to it. Sister Liang, you are so amazing. For a girl, that's not really a compliment. I'm very envious of this relationship between you. When I was in the village, surrounded by my parents and the villagers who were like family, this feeling was just a little longing buried deep in my heart. After escaping from the village, I was left with nothing. This hidden feeling was infinitely amplified as the time of wandering accumulated. When facing the siblings Ika and Luoluo in a sober state, Ling was very eager to blend in with them. Therefore, this longing became an excuse for dependence. Sister said I would be your friend. Ling gestured behind her with her finger. Although that guy is a scumbag, he is basically a harmless type, and there is no problem in normal interactions. I know, thank you. It's just. Xiao Ling smiled firmly and looked directly into Ling's eyes. This relationship can't last, right? Why? Even if it is what the past self said, the current Ling cannot understand it. Why? Unconsciously, the questions in my mind turned into words and came out. Because you will eventually leave here, right? If you never see each other, you will gradually forget each other. If you are forgotten, can you still be friends? I see. Why would I forget? At that time, I defined the bonds I never had according to my own wishes. The current self really cannot understand the past self, and conversely, the past self will certainly not understand the present self. Ling opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Xiao Ling still stared into her eyes. Look at your past self again, yourself in the mirror. It's me who has changed. Ling spread out his palm, holding the light flame sword for a year, leaving subtle marks on it. If you don't look carefully, you can't even find it. The same goes for my own changes, which are accumulated bit by bit. If you don't use the past as a comparison, even if you look back, you won't know which fork in the road you took. As long as I don't forget you, that's fine, right? Ika's voice suddenly penetrated between the two people who were in a stalemate. When will you? My ability to resist blows has been trained by you for a year, so there should be some improvement anyway. Then you should really thank me. Thanks for your care. Don't be like this, it's so disgusting. So, that's it. Ika patted Ling on the shoulder and looked at Xiao Ling, who looked confused. This Miss Liang is my friend, do you believe this? It's not the same as the friend you imagined, isn't it? A little unexpected. Ryo and I have been able to see each other almost every day this year, and we can't forget it even if we want to. I suddenly want to kick you. Ling muttered softly. Please be quiet for a while. Ika comforted Ling with a smile, and then smiled bitterly at Xiao Ling. So now it has become such a relationship, and you have seen it? There may be a time of separation in the future, maybe a few months later, or maybe a few years later. As you said, after separation, there will eventually be a separation. One day I will not be able to remember what she looks like. However, the time we experienced together did exist, and the memories left behind cannot be erased. Because people are made of these time and memories. Without these, we cannot be called it's human. It's not a very complicated thing we have met here now, please take care of me in the next time, and I want to be your friend if possible. It is such a relationship. Ling stretched out her hand to Xiao Ling, and Ika also stretched out her hand and placed it on the back of Ling's hand. We are indeed leaving here, and maybe not coming back. So, the time and memories of yesterday, can you deny that? The first meeting on the cliff, the meeting again in front of the house, the cleaning of the warehouse, the welcome party at night. Can't do it, can't do it, can't do it, no matter which one, it has its own figure. If you deny it, you deny yourself. Xiao Ling couldn't find an answer to this multiple choice question. So, instead of thinking about such troublesome things, wouldn't it be a lot easier if you just accept it directly? Moreover, many things will only be discovered after accepting it. If you keep digging into the wrong, your vision will be limited. This person should be deeply aware of it. Bar. Hey, don't keep bringing the topic to me. You mean Way 11's matter, right? I'm not trying to get into trouble, it's just. Ling suddenly remembered something and did not continue. Ika didn't care. Xiao Ling looked at the hands stretched out by the two people and pursed her lips. He raised his arms and lowered them again, fighting against the psychological contradiction over and over again. If it were you, I believe you can do it. Ling took a step forward, because I believe in myself. Xiao Ling probably wouldn't understand the meaning of these words, but Ika could. Ling's words are not for others, but for her own heart. You cannot deny the past, so you cannot deny your past self. The reason why people can be called people is because of the inner existence. So, fundamentally speaking, Xiao Ling and Ling are two completely different people. But even so, Ling is willing to believe it. Believe in the time that you cherish the most, and the self that cherishes that time the most. The third hand gently folded on the back of their hands. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 142. Under Xiaoling's guidance, the two visited the entire village in one morning. The scenery in Ling's memory has not changed at all. Things that are new to Ika only make Ling feel a little melancholy in his heart. The problem he just realized has been lingering in Ling's mind. Her footsteps gradually fell behind Ika and Xiao Ling. This is the sea you once painted, that stone. Ika still has some impressions of the scene here, especially the protruding reef in the offshore sea, which also appears in Xiao Ling's paintings. Do you still remember that painting? When her work was mentioned, Xiao Ling looked at the reef with some embarrassment. Because the painting is very good, I am very impressed. Do you want to be a painter in the future? I haven't considered that kind of thing yet. I just wanted to know if you've ever had such thoughts. Maybe that's not bad. After visiting the village, the three returned to the orchard they passed before. Oh, you're back. The uncle in charge of the orchard harvest happened to come out carrying a slowly loading basket. Sorry it took so long. Although it did not exceed the time agreed with the uncle, Ling still greeted him politely. Then let's do twice the work in one time. Of course, I'm talking about boys. Miss Eldest and Miss Liang can just help me. I'll do it with him. Ling politely declined the uncle's kindness. In this case, I will come too. She was the only one receiving preferential treatment, and Xiao Ling was restless. Miss Liang's words should be fine, but the eldest lady. Xiao Ling's self-assertion made the uncle scratch his head in embarrassment. It doesn't matter. I will tell my parents that I asked for it myself. That's not the problem. The uncle seemed a little embarrassed to say it. After struggling for a few seconds, he finally expressed his difficulty. The eldest lady has never done farm work. Wouldn't it be a bit too much to do this kind of thing right away? Reluctantly. I've done housework too. Et. Even Ling himself was surprised, let alone the dumbfounded uncle. When will Miss? Just yesterday. Right, brother Ika, sister Liang. Xiao Ling confirmed to Ika and Ling with a confident look. When organizing the warehouse, Aunt Sophia did most of the work by herself. Ika wanted to say this. But judging from this situation, the uncle would never agree to let Xiao Ling participate in the harvest of the orchard unless he answered in the affirmative. Ika didn't want to leave her here alone. Miss Ling really helped a lot when we were tidying up our house. Although this unprecedented lie may reach Aunt Sophia's ears later, if Xiao Ling can express herself here, the lie will become true. The uncle frowned and worried for a while, then reluctantly agreed to Xiao Ling's request. People in the village doted on Xiao Ling, maybe because of her age, but also largely because of her status and background. When the uncle called Xiao Ling Miss, Ling behind him almost covered his face. When Ika turned around to see Ling's reaction, she glared back hard. Get the ladder in the storage room over there. Don't use the one that's too high. It's unnecessary and dangerous. The uncle gestured to the storage shed not far away. The scissors and baskets are also there. If you can't find something else you need, just ask other people. There are many villagers working in the orchards, and helping each other is common. Well, I understand. You are a boy, take responsibility. The uncle patted Ika on the shoulder, gave him a meaningful look, and then walked away carrying the seemingly heavy basket. When I pushed open the door of the storage room, I saw that there was no dust flying as expected. On the contrary, it was neatly organized inside. It didn't take much effort for Ika to find the tools she needed. Is this the kind of ladder that uncle is talking about? Well, this height is about right. Ling looked up and down the ladder. What a sure statement. If I told you that I climbed up directly without a ladder, would you believe it? If it was before coming here, I probably would have believed it. Ika looked at Xiao Ling, who was looking around elsewhere, and smiled lightly. I can't imagine the eldest lady climbing up the tree. Don't look at me like that. In the past. In fact, I am very capable, but I never had a chance. Ling didn't know for what purpose, and tried her best to defend Ika. Okay, I believe you. That perfunctory tone again. Anyway, I'll take the ladder with me. You can put the tools you need in the basket and take them with you. Xiao Ling was still looking at the tools piled on the table and didn't notice the bickering between the two. Ika put the dissatisfied Ling aside and called Xiao Ling over. After carrying tools of all sizes to the tree, saying hello to the adults working around, the work officially began. Ika set up a ladder under the tree and stood up with the scissors. He had helped with this kind of work many times in his own home and was already familiar with it. Ling, help me take over from below. Just because it was a familiar job, Ika was careless. His original intention was to let Ling play Logo's usual role, but Xiao Ling also reacted to this sentence. Do you need my help? She came to the bottom of the ladder full of expectations, and Ling also took a step forward, but after seeing Xiao Ling, she immediately took back her steps. Ah, yes. Ika glanced at Ling sheepishly, her expression a little complicated. The look in Ika's eyes showed more disappointment than blame. If you're cool, come up too. Ika's unexpected suggestion made Ling's expression change. It's easier to cut on the branches, and two people are more efficient. I'll leave it to Ling next. Well, leave it to me. Being given things that only she could do made Xiao Ling more motivated. Ika blinked at Ling, then stepped on the thick branches and got into the canopy of the tree. Sister Liang, be careful. Thank you. In fact, he was lying to Ika just now when he told him that he had climbed a tree. He was able to estimate the height of the ladder just because he knew the approximate height of the fruit trees in the orchard. She didn't expect that lie to help her at this embarrassing moment. Ling didn't know if she should feel lucky. It should be, no problem. She grabbed the handrail of the stairs and climbed up. The ladder was held very firmly by Ika and did not feel shaky. Ling patted her trembling thighs, then carefully stretched out her feet and stepped on the swaying branches. Babble. That sense of security disappeared without a trace in an instant, and Ling's voice accidentally leaked out. Ika got into the other side of the tree canopy and naturally didn't notice Ling's nervousness. She clung to the intricate branches, bending down to search for ripe fruits. Tie the cut fruit with a string. Xiao Ling will pull the string after untying the fruit. It's such a simple process. The ripe fruits on Ika's side have basically been harvested. He is now returning along the original path, and then he sees Ling, who has moved a little bit, and has not even completed 1/3 of the work. Do you need help? Don't want. At times like this, you are still exactly the same as you were in the past. Please don't make this comparison in front of me, okay? Ling replied stubbornly while continuing the work at hand. Then I'll go down first. If you have any trouble, just call me. There won't be any trouble. That's best. Ika held the trunk and walked slowly past Ling. In order to make room for Ika in this small space, Ling moved slightly to the side. The consequence of not concentrating enough was the moment when her right foot stepped on the air. Ah! If you fall from here, you won't be seriously injured. At most, your ankle will be twisted. However, at the moment of falling, fear will fill my heart, and I will not even notice such a thing. Don't move. But the body did not fall. Ika grabbed the branch extending from her head with one hand, and the other hand went around Ling's back and firmly grasped her waist. He was very lucky to be able to rescue Ling in time. In order to prevent the two of them from falling together, Ika did not bother to control the strength of his hands. There was a dull pain in the tightly held waist, but it was precisely because of this pain that the fear in Ling's heart was dispelled. Are you okay? There was a lot of movement just now. After returning to the ground safely, Xiao Ling ran over immediately. Judging from the results, there is no problem. This is what Ika explained to her. In the following work, Ling gradually mastered the skills, and that kind of accident never happened again. At noon, Aunt Sophia brought a lunch box. After lunch, their work continued. As the sky began to darken, the villagers began to call it a day. Thanks to the participation of the 3 young people, the remaining work will be completed tomorrow morning. In order to celebrate, Ika was dragged by the uncles in the village to drink a few sips of wine, and then was dragged back home by Ling. Even in her dreams, Ika still recalls such a fulfilling day. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 143. The second 10 minutes passed, and Ika and Ling, who were sleeping together, still hadn't come back from that world. Luo temporarily left the room due to physical needs. Wei 11 watched the minute hand of the pendulum clock jump one more tick, and finally couldn't help but ask Tutor Tara a question. Teacher Tara, is it dangerous outside now? Because she didn't want Luo to worry, Wei 11 never asked. Seeing the guard outside the door, Luo must have become suspicious. It's not optimistic, but it's not dangerous either. The omniscience is floating in front of Teacher Tara, and she is sitting on the chair, controlling the magic power accurately. You should know everything, right? Facing Tutor Tara's ambiguous answer, Wei 11 still refused to back down and continued to ask questions. Instructor Tara looked at the anxious Wei 11 with strange eyes, as if he saw a strange creature. Wei 11, do you have such a personality? There are some things that you shouldn't ask too many questions about. You should know this truth best. But Wei 11's eyes were wavering. Of course she knew it very well, but reason was reason, and Wei 11 also had things she wanted to know right now, things she wanted to know regardless of the consequences. Hey, actually there is nothing to hide. Tutor Terra's side, you also know that these two people are the focus of the whole August, right? If I, as a noble, come into contact with them specifically, I will enter in the eyes of those who pay attention to them. I will not provide this kind of free after-sales service. That means we are being watched. There should be no problem now. Her Royal Highness has passed. Do you know about our drill with the Imperial Knights in a week? This big news has spread throughout August. I heard a little about it when I came here. Brother Ika and Sister Ling shouldn't accept. Well. Instructor Terra hesitated how to answer her question. Wei 11 is not as simple a child as she seems on the surface, and she cannot be dismissed with just a few words. Her actions can lead to certain changes in results. That was true then, and that's still true now. Please tell me, Teacher Terra. I don't have any suitable suggestions about this in the end. She chose a conservative answer. It's just that it's best for the two of them to solve this problem by themselves. Whether it's Shiyu Academy or the Holy See, if they intervene, there will be consequences. Negative impact. Don't borrow the power of Liuyan and the Holy See. This is the warning given by Teacher Terra to Wei 11. Ah, I can just open the door myself. The sweet voice of Lolo greeting the knights came from outside the door. So, let's wait until they come back. Instructor Terra put this question to an end temporarily with this sentence. Luoluo opened the door and walked in. Have there been any changes in my brother and sister Ling? Absolutely no. Tutor Terra deliberately prolonged her tone. Maybe the world over there is so beautiful that I have forgotten the reality. Don't make such a joke. Luoluo smiled weakly, walked to the bed and sat down. She knew that under the blanket, Ling and Ika's hands were held together, so she just followed suit. Indulging her willfulness, she put her hand in and held it gently. At dawn, Ika and Ling quietly left the temporary housing. It's over. Standing on the hillside not far from the village, looking at the village shrouded in a layer of mist, Ling murmured like this. Aren't you mentally prepared yet? No, Ling shook her head. It's okay, let's go. I ask again, is this really a good decision? What are you still talking about now? Ling asked Ika irritably. She had heard this question no less than 10 times yesterday. Our purpose is to confirm with our own eyes what the Holy See did to the village, but if we interfere from the side, won't we get the truth? Today was the day that Ling remembered the Holy See's visit, and she couldn't remember the rest of the details. Because I have never seen a magic ship or a transport ship in my memory, the artificial road in the back mountain is the only way to get here. Just grab a random person and ask the Holy See about its action plan. According to you, all the most powerful popes in the Holy See are here, right? We have no chance of winning. So we can only use sneak attacks. I understand, let's follow your plan for the time being. Ika objected to Ling's actions on her own lips, but deep down she couldn't help it. I don't want to watch the traces of my life being erased, and I don't want to do nothing when the person who takes care of me is in pain. People live in contradictions all the time, and Ling is the kind of person who can move forward amidst contradictions. No matter what the outcome is, take action first is her style of acting, which is exactly the opposite of Ika. Sometimes, Ika feels that Ling is very troublesome, and taking care of her requires more than twice as much energy as taking care of Luoluo. However, precisely because she was by his side, the time spent pacing around conflicts was saved. At a place that Ling thought was suitable, the two of them hid their auras in the bushes. This path is where they first woke up in this world. Seeing this, Ika suddenly remembered Xiao Ling who had been here with him. Is there a path connecting here to the village? How do you know? Didn't I come here once when I was carrying garbage last time? She told me that time. Hey, that's it? Ling certainly knew who the she in Ika's mouth was referring to. I asked, why do you get along so well with the past me? You clearly said that the present me and the past they are the same to me, but the treatment between me and her is completely different. Do you blame me? Isn't it right? I hope to hear an answer that is relevant to you. It's not my fault. Yes, yes, it's my fault. Ika waved his hand casually. Let's get down to business. What are you going to do later? According to the way the discipline team operates, the person who looks weakest should be targeted. Could it be that the discipline team trained by Tyrua-senpai are all people who can say such things without changing their expressions? I guess the weakest among them is Way 11. The moment the name was mentioned, Ling fell silent. At that time on the second day, Ling had already realized this problem. Contact with Way 11 in this era is inevitable. Maybe that's really the case. But it's not that easy. Way 11 has a certain status in the Holy See, and she has that kind of personality, so she will definitely be protected by others. Then let's find someone else. This is the first time that Ika convinced Ling so easily. Silence fell between the two. It's almost time. The mist covering the avenue became thicker in the light. Ling summoned two light flame swords in the form of kodaki, and lowered the blades to the ground to avoid reflection and exposing his position. While unfolding the fiery eyes, some familiar voices sounded in Ika's mind. Ling, there is someone hiding around here like us. What did you find? Nothing was found, but this information should be true. Intelligence. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it can be believed. If you believe it, that's probably it. Ling accepted Ika's unfounded words. Then, where is it? That's all you told me. Do you know how to use detection magic? Detection magic is not taught in the first-year curriculum of Frost Moon Academy, and is only briefly mentioned in the general introduction to magic. The magic of the detection system, the light flame sword, has a similar effect, but you can't put down the weapon at this time. Try it, I'll protect you. Ling was suddenly stunned for a moment, and her face gradually turned red. She lowered her head sharply, blocking the expression on her face with her bangs. Then let me give it a try. Please. Ika didn't notice the change in Ling's expression. Since she is willing to trust her unfounded judgment and let go of her weapons, she must protect her as promised. Really, suddenly so serious? Ling took a deep breath, stroked her chest to calm her suddenly accelerated heartbeat, and then released the light flame sword. The golden blade broke into tiny golden particles, which merged into the air and dispersed around. The golden magic array slowly rotated at Ling's feet. Ling closed her eyes and searched the surroundings through the perspective of golden particles. If you are unlucky, the magic that is now continuously activated may be sensed by others. When Prince Tiburai established the academy, Tylua taught them a good lesson with her actions. Since he knew that there was a possibility of being attacked suddenly and Ling was unable to act now, all he could do was to be highly vigilant about the movements around him. Unless it is a long-distance attack, you must get close to here to launch an attack. Found it after more than 10 long seconds, Ling opened her eyes, but there's something strange about it. Are there many people? Not many. There are only 3 people in the entire back mountain, and they are far apart. You just said there was something strange. They don't look like people from the Holy See. Ling put her chin on her head and recalled, think about it, don't the people from the Holy See all look well dressed for the sake of face? But these people don't feel that way at all. Do you want to contact them? What do you think? I'll listen to you. There was no time for Ling to hesitate. Ika urged her with her eyes. The two of us will go together. Of course I won't let you go alone. I know. The magic array shining with golden light disappeared under Ling's body. When you first come into contact with an unknown person, weapons are a symbol of hostility and may cause unnecessary misunderstandings. However, the deployment time of the magic equipment is very short, and it can be responded to in time when needed. Both of them set their weapons to external form. The closest location to us is. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 144. When the two arrived at the person's location, the other person was already waiting for them. I just said why I felt like I was being stared at. It turned out to be just two brats. When he saw Ika and Ling, the man immediately waved his hands without interest as if to ward off insects. The green coat did not completely hide his tight muscles. He was a man very similar to Uncle Lehman in terms of imposing manner. Sorry, we accidentally got lost in the forest. Where is this place? Ika pretended to smile in apology, having already thought of the excuse in advance. Which direction did you come from? PFA Town. A little place I've never heard of. The man sat down on a big rock in the grass, took a cigarette, lit it, and then stamped out the match. After taking a deep breath, he blew out the connected smoke rings. I don't have time to take care of a little kid, so I need to find someone else for help. But we've come this far without meeting anyone else. Ika didn't get any information from this man, so of course she couldn't give up here. Didn't I tell you that I don't have the leisure time? He took another deep drag on the cigarette and his tone became more irritated. May I ask, what are you doing here? Ling, who had been silent until now, asked. The man glared at her, but it wasn't enough to make her flinch. It's nothing, just watching the scenery. After taking the last puff, he threw the cigarette butt on the ground and crushed it with his toes a few times. Little brat, hurry up and go home along the same road. Keep going. If you do, you may be further and further away from home. This conversation was fruitless. Still unable to decipher this man's identity and purpose. At this moment, the sound of a whistle sounded in the distance. Who is this voice? Ling did not miss the sound. It's a boat, right? There's a sea in front of it. You go quickly, don't stay here and disturb me. The man took out the PDA, and Ika and Ling immediately noticed the coat of arms on the back of the case. The first time I saw this badge was when I entered the August city gate. This coat of arms is the symbol of August. Your aura has changed. The man suddenly stopped what he was doing. Following Ika and Ling's gaze, he looked at the PDA in his hand. I see, you saw this. The man put away his PDA and stood facing the two of them. I am Sanders Dell, who belongs to the Imperial Knights. Come on, tell me your true identity. His eyes were no longer as boring as before, but sparkling like a lion that had found its prey. Ika knew that there was no way to escape in this situation. We are students of Frost Moon Academy. Ika took out her PDA and showed the coat of arms of Frost Moon Academy. Only students who have officially registered can enter this system. Mr. Sanders, you are not just here to enjoy the scenery, right? Ling bent down slightly, her light flame sword ready to be unsheathed at any time. Ha ha ha, Sanders laughed. Has Frost Moon Academy finally begun to interfere in the internal affairs of the Empire? No, we are here for private matters. As for the students of Shiyu Academy, they are just additional identities. Ika shook her head nonchalantly. He knew he couldn't delay any longer, but he was very hesitant about having a conflict here. The ship's cry just now was beyond Ling's expectation, but the Knights of the Empire are here, so the people on that ship. Sorry, I wanted to drive you away quickly, but now I have to let you stay here. Sanders took out the two-handed sword-shaped magic tool commonly used by knights, moved his thick and powerful arms, and the tip of the sword flew through the air quickly, making a harsh sound of breaking wind. Just a magic tool can show such power. A trace of cold sweat ran down Ika's back. How about it? Do you want to be obedient and stay here, or do you want me to help you? Sorry, I don't want to choose either way. Ika summoned two guns to contain Sanders' actions. Oh? What about a very rare magic tool? Is it specially made by Frost Moon Academy? I'm sorry, this is just an ordinary magic tool customized based on my hobbies. Mr. Sanders, can't you reveal your purpose a little bit? No knight would reveal his mission. Sanders laughed again at the ridiculous question. Mission? Anyway, I'm also very busy. Let's solve it as soon as possible. Sanders didn't leave Ika any time to think. His strong body accelerated like magic, and he rushed in front of Ika in the blink of an eye. It's too late, not even enough time to raise your hands to defend. The scene in front of me was like playing in slow motion, the sword blade cutting through the air and approaching. Ika has seen the ending, but her body really can't react in time. Draw the sword. The golden lines cut through the despair, the sword blade that was close at hand was bounced away, and the wind pressure left a blood mark on Ika's face. Ling was knocked back several steps. It took all her strength to block the sword, and she knelt down on the ground holding the blade of the sword. Ling. I'm fine, my feet are just weak, don't be careless again. Ling shouted at the top of his lungs. After receiving such a spirited answer, Ika could safely focus on the burly man in front of her. That little girl can't move anymore. Do you want to continue? Nonsense. A silver barrage unfolded at the muzzle of Ika's gun. Such a child's trick. Faced with such a dense barrage, Sanders simply wiped it away with a wave of his sword. What other tricks are there? Before he finished speaking, the silver cage imprisoned him in it. Taking advantage of the slowness of Sanders' movements that was revealed for a moment, the silver rope woven with magical power wrapped around his two-handed sword. The pistol in his right hand was ready. Ika pulled the rope with all his strength, used the reaction force to quickly approach Sanders, and put the muzzle of the gun against his abdomen. The sharp arrows that once penetrated Liu Yun's ice shield would definitely penetrate his defense this time. Students of Frost Moon Academy. By the time Ika noticed it, his right hand had been tightly grasped by Sanders and twisted in an unnatural direction. And the left fist that let go of the two-handed sword hit his abdomen hard. When did you become so naive? The smell of rust came up. Sanders let go of Ika's arm and he fell to the ground like a rag. Feelings of dizziness and vomiting, mixed with severe pain, flooded into Ika's brain. Cough. Liquid was coughed up from his throat, and the intense ringing in his ears made it difficult to hear outside sounds. Ika only knew that she had lost, completely. Ika. You're so resilient, little girl. Sanders immediately drew his sword and blocked Ling's thrust. Different from the first time when he drew his sword fiercely, now Ling was just waving the weapon randomly. Sanders frowned. This kind of attack is a waste of time. He easily flicked the two Kodaki swords away from Ling's hands, and then, an explosion of magic power exploded at Sanders' feet. Don't forget me. Ika put one hand on the ground and pointed the gun at Sanders' feet. Ika, Ling didn't bother to pick up the weapon and moved her aching body to Ika's side. How are you? How do you feel? At least I'm still alive and well, Ling, don't be careless. Ika raised her chin and gestured forward. Sanders was not seriously hurt by the burst of magic power just now, and his figure was revealed in the flying dust. Haha, interesting. You two are not ordinary. The little girl needs to be stronger. Ika held the ground with one hand, Ling's sword of light was no longer at hand. Sanders stood in front of them like a king. To be honest, I don't really like to treat children as opponents. But since you are so strong, I will treat you as an equal opponent. He raised his two-handed sword high. There was no way to stop him. Ika gritted her teeth, and Ling struggled to reach out to Kodaki, who was not far away. The knight's two-handed sword fell and was stuck in the dirt. To be precise, The two-handed sword slipped from his hands. "Get it done." A seductive voice sounded from behind Sanders. The strong body fell sideways to the ground, and the person hidden behind him was revealed. Her chestnut-colored curly hair was tied up high, and her snow-white thighs were sometimes visible through the gaps in her red and white cheongsam. "I remember you were." The woman stepped over Sanders' body, came to squat in front of Ika. "No way." She looked at Ika, who looked stunned. "Wait, you." Ling immediately stood in front of Ika. "Who are you? Is this the way you talk to your savior?" The woman flicked Ling's forehead naturally. "Pain. Ah, sorry, I forgot that you are still injured." "Ling. Get out of the way, you're pressing on my wound." Ika's injuries recovered quickly, and Ling only consumed a lot of energy. After taking a short rest, the woman let them leave. "My friends will deal with the other two people. You can safely return to the village for treatment. The few people from the Empire are left here. They are mostly here for surveillance. There is no great harm. Killing them will only cause more trouble." The woman only left the sentence. After the two of them supported each other and left, the woman stayed where she was and murmured, Ika and Ling." It seemed to be a very difficult question, and the woman's brows knitted into a figure-8 shape. Could it be that? She seemed to have thought of something. Her eyebrows widened. "So that's it? Sister, why are you still here?" The man in white jumped down from the bushes with the sleepy girl in his arms. "Have you finished processing it over there?" The girl lazily snuggled into the arms of the man in white and nodded. "Speaking of which, what's going on with those two people? Anyone who has nothing to do with the eldest sister should also be dealt with, right? This is a bit troublesome to explain, so forget it." The woman ignored the warning of the man in white and turned around, walking past him and the girl. "Now that our work is done, all we have to do is wait until the end." End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 145. As soon as the two dragged their scarred bodies to the entrance of the village, they were greeted with warmth. "Why have you become so tattered? Is there still such a way to play in the wild? It's great to be young." The villagers were talking about it, but they still didn't forget to lend their shoulders to the two of them. "We just heard the sound of a ship. Are we docking here?" Ika didn't bother to clarify the facts and immediately asked a villager next to him. "It is said that the Holy See is visiting, and Lehman and the others have already passed." "Is that really the case?" Ling bit her lower lip. Because her own judgment led to the current ending, she felt sorry for Ika. In the small clinic in the village, Ika asked Ling to lie down on the hospital bed and covered her with a quilt. After doing this, he stood up from the bed. "I'll go out and take a look." "I want to go too." "I beg you, please have a good rest. You were also seriously injured." "I don't remember when my recovery ability became very strong." Ika also deliberately rolled up her sleeves and gestured with her arms. "That's it, I'm completely fine now. What if there is a conflict with the Holy See? You can't help much if you come here like this, right?" Woo. Being ruthlessly rejected by Ika with facts, Ling covered her face with the quilt. "Don't worry, there will be no conflict. We are just residents here. If anything happens, I will be the first to come back and notify you." "Well." Ling still didn't poke her head out of the quilt, but just responded in a muffled voice, "Be careful. I was just about to say this to you, haha." Ika felt relieved, said goodbye to Ling and left the clinic. The arrival of the Holy See and his party did not seem to have a great impact on the village. Ika walked slowly along the main road, not noticing the different atmosphere than usual. Here. Ah, please wait." At the large fountain in the center of the village, Ika met the two familiar girls. "Ika, when did you come back?" Xiao Ling seemed very happy now. She jumped up and ran to Ika. "Just now, Haha. Where's Sister Liang? She was a little tired and went home to catch up on her sleep. Aika looked past the pink-haired girl and landed on the white-haired girl hiding far behind. Way 11. Woo. This was the first time Aika saw Way 11 wearing the dark blue uniform of the Holy See. Being watched by Aika, she shrank up like a wounded animal. Aika, do you know her? I've heard of her name. Aika quickly excused herself. He couldn't reveal that he and Way 11 knew each other here. This was the first time the two met in this world. At this time, Way 11 was still the child who was full of curiosity and fear of the outside world. Xiao Ling was probably the first friend she made after Liu Yin. From a distance, Way 11 lowered her head in the direction of Aika, as if she said something. Wait a moment. Xiao Ling said and ran to Way 11, said something to her, and then took her hand and brought her to Aika. First time meeting, I am Way 11 from the Holy See, please take care of me. It was still a self-introduction readout from the script. Haha. When I met her again, I always felt a lot of emotion. Aika put her hand on her little head habitually. I am Aika, take care of each other. Way 11 closed her eyes tightly and shrank her neck, as if trying to avoid Aika's hand. He didn't run away just because his legs couldn't stop shaking and he couldn't run. Aika is a nice guy, not scary at all, right? Way 11 shook her long bangs and nodded slightly. A dark blue cape with a huge cross wrapped around her little body, as lovable as a pet. This uniform is the knight's uniform of the Holy See, right? Do you know? I heard a little bit. Where are the other people who came with you? Those people were with my parents. They asked me to come out to find you and Sister Liang, and then I met Xiao 11. Ling rushed to answer for Way 11. So you just forgot about your mission to find us? Ah, I'm sorry. Xiao Ling lowered her head, but immediately raised it again, but Xiao 11 is very cute. She's like a younger sister. It's very cute. Aika nodded unconsciously in agreement. Ugh, no. Surrounded by two people commenting on herself, Way 11 buried her head deeper. That's right, Ling. What's matter? Xiao Ling, who was rubbing Way 11's cheek, raised her head, and Way 11 finally breathed a sigh of relief. Isn't it convenient for you to go home now and tell Uncle Lehman and Aunt Sophia that we are back? Yeah, no problem. I'll wait for you here, and leave Way 11 to me to take care of her. Be sure to wait for me here, I'll be back soon. Please. After sending Xiao Ling away, Way 11 looked around and saw that Aika and she were the only two people left here. Being alone with a man she met for the first time must be impossible for Way 11's character. Okay, there are only two of us left. Way 11's shoulders trembled silently, and Aika saw it all. Sit over there for a while. Okay. Facing the irresistible existence, Way 11 could only choose to obey. The two sat down on the bench. Way 11 didn't say anything, and Aika didn't know where to start. The two looked at the blue sky and white clouds together. A sense of déjà vu. In the park of Tiburai Kingdom, the two of them also sat side by side like this. Aika liked both Way 11 who was smiling at that time and Way 11 who was nervously curling her pure white hair with her fingers now. The surroundings seemed quieter than usual, because Way 11 was sitting next to him, and Aika found it difficult to calm down. There were a lot of things I wanted to say to her, but I couldn't find the words to say them. Are you happy playing with Ling? After a few seconds, her little head nodded slightly. It would be great if we could always be friends. Aika unconsciously spoke her mind. This sentence made Way 11 raise her head and look at Aika's wry smile with big moist eyes. Can't we remain friends? Oh no, that's not what I meant. Woo. Aika's hurried explanation startled Way 11, and she shrank back again. Sorry, I scared you. Ika sat down next to her again. Wei 11, if you meet Ling again in the future, will you be friends with her? This time, Wei 11 answered without hesitation. Now it's right. Ika smiled and touched Wei 11's head. The long pure white hair still felt so comfortable. From a distance, you can see Xiaoling walking towards the side. Ika stood up next to Wei 11. Ika, I have already told my parents. Are all the people from the Holy See there too? Well, it seemed like they were talking about something very serious and they kicked me out. Haha, maybe it's something that children can't know. Ika walked past Xiaoling. I'll give Wei 11 back to you. I'm not a kid anymore. Where are you going? Just wander around. Ika waved her hands with her back to Xiaoling and Wei 11, and walked in the direction where Xiaoling came back. Wei 11 was still sitting on the bench, watching Ika's retreating figure. Ika, brother. She opened her lips slightly and whispered the title in a low voice.